Hey guys, excuse me. Welcome back to my channel. So today for you, I have been working on this video for a while, and as you can see, I've been working on this page for a bit. But what I want to talk about today is how I did this background. I think it looks amazing, and considering how little bits I had to go around, I was like, oh, this came out so good. So I want to show you guys how I did it. Okay, this is, by the way, from Tales from the City Among the Stars by Hanna Karlzon. It's her new book. Now, as a side note, the book did not come in that great a shape. As you can see, it's kind of, I'm a little peeved about it, but you know, what can you do? So anyway, I want to show you guys how I did this background. So I'm going to pick another page, because the one I thought about it initially was, I decided it was a little too complicated. So I picked a different image. I was going to do, where is it? It's over here. You can see how well this takes water media, by the way. This is what the other side looks like. It's not too bad, right? So yeah, it takes water. Her books take water media better than Johanna's do. Sorry, Johanna. But I was gonna do this one, and I decided that I had the way I had the setup in the background was just a little too complicated. So I decided to pick something a little simpler. And I absolutely love this image. Ugh, like, I saw this and I went, ooh. So, excuse me. We have some, what I'm going to use, one of the things is these new Derwent. I'm going to try out these new Derwent water brushes that I got. And they were about $17 on Amazon. And it comes in 3 different sizes. Like a fine point, a midpoint, and then a flat. Okay, I might break out a couple of other tools, depending on with the oil pastels. I got these via Shannon. She was featuring them on one of her uploads, and I thought it was cool. They're about, I want to say, between 13 and 17, somewhere in that vicinity. And there's more of them than just these three. Excuse me, I cannot count today. There's more than just these 3. Like, there's a set of them. I can't post a link, unfortunately, but they are available on Amazon. And they are actually quite amazing. They work with oil pastels. They work with pan pastels, distress inks. They work with almost everything. It's amazing. So these are the brushes, and I've already pre-filled them. They're pretty cool. As you can see, this is kind of what they look like. So yeah, and there's supposed to be a little push button. Oh, there's not. Oh wow. Okay, well, that's interesting. But that's interesting. Okay, anywho, now I also have a just like a generic two-hole sharpener. We will of course be using the bigger one. I have my Pental oil pastel. You can use different ones. I have a Paul Rubin that's like twice the size. I kind of prefer the smaller Pentels. And as a side note, the Pentels also come in a set like this for about $10, guys. Check that out, $10 for all of these. So I left those out there because I wanted to show you that. These stencils, I don't remember how much I paid for these, to be honest. But if you just type in cloud stencils on Amazon, they'll come up, or even Google. This one was a little more expensive than this one, but they're both quite amazing. You see what I mean? You can do, if you want to do like a layer look, this is a perfect one, especially in like Johanna's newer books that have a lot of, some of them have negative space, like Worlds of Wonder, for example, has a lot of them just have negative space. This is great for that. I probably will be using this one today. It's very interesting. Anyway, you should be able to find that easy enough on Amazon. They think they were around between $15 and $20, something like that. I also have a couple of different ways you can apply the water-soluble crayons. One of which is using this. Oh, sorry, it's upside down. This Caran D Ache palette board, which I have a new one on order because this one is seen better days. It looks gross, and I bleached it to no avail. So, yeah, I know it looks icky. And then I have this little tool that I'm going to be using to put some drawing gum on here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. These are the crayons that I will be using, the white for the clouds. And then these are my water-soluble crayons, 3 of which are from Lyra. I paid about $56 for a 48-piece set, which is really not bad. These are actually quite decent. They're not bad. They're really not bad at all. And then this is part of the Caran D Ache Neo 2. The Neo ones, I have a small set on order because I really want to try them. The Neo ones are the oil pastel type, okay? The Neo 2s are the water soluble. And I will show you an interesting difference as a side note here. Sorry, the ADD just, you know, I have fun with my rabbit trails. So, this one, and this one, all the Lyras. And you see the way they sharpened, right? Very fine, very finely sharpened. Now, do you see how the Caran D Ache, which is this one right here? I don't know if you could see. That one right there. How thickly it's sharpened, how, like, it's in bigger chunks. Versus the Lyras are a little bit thinner. So, that's just something to consider. I think it has something to do with the way they manufacture them, maybe. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you, and I'm not going to demonstrate it, but I'm gonna tell you, is when you have the paper and you want to get the paper off, just take a little, instead of like wrecking your nails and stuff, just take your little craft knife. I dug a little too deep with this one, but try to dig a little thinner than I did, and just sort of pull it off like that. Because if you want to save your shavings, and like say you want to add more, like say you do it directly on here and you want to add more in, you can come back and use the shavings. So you want to make sure that you don't have any label mixed in with the shavings, or it's gonna not, it's not gonna look right. It's gonna be weird. So, okay, that's just something else to consider. I also have my Q-tips. This is a really cool one that you can get like in the makeup section. Then there's a regular normal Q-tip. And then I have another one that you can get in the makeup section, or on all these all come from Amazon too. This one is amazing. Like when I want to get into the finer areas, this is amazing. I go through a ton of these. All right, so the other thing too you want to consider is to have a paper towel or a rag. I don't know if you can see, but I have they're washcloths, honestly, but I got them off of Amazon, a big pack for like $10. So I really don't care what happens to them. But have a couple of those handy. Trust me, you won't be sorry. Personal experience. All right, so now the first thing I'm going to do is show you how I sharpen these. And then save the shavings. I've already sort of, peeled the label back. And you've got to make sure it's really important to make sure that your thing is clean. Now, I got this palette, by the way, this Daisy palette. I got it off of Amazon, and I think it was like maybe $20. between 10, it was between 10 and 20 bucks. Somewhere's in there, that vicinity. Really, really nice. I love it. It's very space saving, but it's incredibly useful. So I'm going to use this one. So because it got a little dirty with the shavings, you really want to make sure that your shavings, when they, oh, see like how it, do you see how that got on this thing there? Just do this with a makeup brush, because otherwise that will happen. And that is no big deal. You just grab a little little sharpener like this, but be careful, okay? When you use these little sharpeners, be very careful how heavy you go with it, because it can affect when you're using like watercolor. The watercolor will lay down differently where you've used a regular eraser. So what you want to do is get a kneaded eraser like this, and you know, use that, generally speaking, especially with watercolor. So I'm just gonna take that and make sure that it's right. You want to use the big one, but because obviously the small one's not gonna fit. Oh, and one thing too, do you see how there's blue mixed in with the shavings? Because now I'm going to have to get rid of them, or just put them off to the side here. I may yet have a use for them. I forgot to clean the pencil sharpener. So this is really important, especially when you're drastically changing your colors, to make sure that you clean your pencil sharpener. It's really, you just saw how important that is. And just kind of give a little, and if my hands look kind of I've been playing around with my pan pastels and distress inks and stuff like that. I had a ball. See, I did this with my pastels and a stencil. I mean, not this part, just, you know, kind of playing around. So when my hands are kind of ugh. So anyway, that's kind of how you don't do it at first. Make sure your sharpener is clean. All right, let's see if the other side's clean. Let's make sure the other side is clean. There we go. There, that should be better. And of course I just discard the thing here. This should be better. Yep, that's way better. I don't really need the shavings per se, but I might, and you know, you see that's a lot better. It really sometimes does matter. And then you can just use your little Q-tip here to kind of get out the shavings. Ta-da! Now, once again, you're going to need your handy dandy makeup brush. Make sure it's relatively clean. It doesn't have to be spotless, but you know, a little bit, and just brush them all over yourself. Don't do that. Don't do that. Jeez. Another thing you might want to consider with your thing here is, because I'm putting these right here, is to lay down that towel so that you, especially if you have another image that you want to protect. Sure, this is like painter's tape or low tack, something like that, but be careful when you go to pull this up, because if you're not really careful, you will take the paper right with it. Even though it's low tack, what you want to do is get a small hair dryer or something like that and gently tease it up with the hair dryer. You don't want to just rip it off. Do not do that. Been there, done that. Get a little hair dryer like this and just go around front of it like this and just tease it up gently. Trust me when I say that's the best way to do it. I learned a very painful lesson. So, all right, now I'm gonna do this so it stays a little bit better. Okay, so I'm gonna move these out of my way now that you guys have seen them. Now, what you want to do, there's a couple ways. First of all, I want to put my drawing gum. Now, I do not care for this particular drawing gum. It's from peobo, whatever. I don't know. I don't really like it, honestly. And as soon as I get the money, I'm going to replace it with it's like a light yellow that I think Winsor Newton puts out. I'm not crazy about this stuff. It's just, I don't know. It has a strange texture, and I'm not too hot on it. I mean, I don't know. You may like it. It wasn't horribly expensive, but it's just, I don't know. It's odd. So what I'm going to do is some of the smaller areas, I'm going to take my little tool here. And these came in like a pack of 4. For like under $20. They're really nice. I will go through my search history on my Amazon, and I will put in the exact brand and price for you. I promise. I will look that up. Because they come in different sizes. There's this size, and there's like a really bigger size, and there's like a nice medium size. Really, you see how well this is laying this down. I mean, it's kind of perfect, right? But you do have to be careful, because see what just happened? It dries very quickly. So you have to work quickly when you do this, because you can accidentally pull it up. And then you just end up creating a mess like I'm about to do here. There. Okay. You have to work quickly. All right. Now I'm going to show you another little technique for preserving that little top part. It's a little bit different. And I'm just taking this and I'm just gently doing that on the end, at the edge of it, so that I don't have a big old stinking glob, because I don't want that either. And I'm just doing this in some of the tinier areas that I really don't want to have to stress over, because it would be a pain in the behind to go around. But you want to make sure that you don't get too much on your... So I almost had too much there. There. So I'm going to do the rest of this, and I will be right back. Okay, so my little tool just broke. I'm pretty sure the hubby can fix it. However, the drawing gum pulled it right out of the thing. I'm pretty sure he can get it back in, but yeah. So if that happens, always have a plan B. Now for semi-larger areas, the pointed Q-tip will work, like for over here. But for some of the tiny areas, what I suggest is a skewer stick. And as you can see, I've sharpened this one even more with the handy dandy craft knife. So when that happens, just take your skewer stick, the pointed end, and I'm gonna pull this up a little bit. Make sure you don't have too much on your tip. But make sure you have enough. Oh, my stupid thing. It has to soak the wood first before it will adhere. That's one of the little tricks using these, is that you have to kind of let the tips sort of get saturated. The wood has to get like saturated. And it's not perfect. Like my little tool that I was using would have been better. But I'm always breaking things, so there it is. My stupid thing. There we go. There we go. And you just kind of spread it around. It's a little more effort because the wood has to be, as I said, the wood has to be sort of saturated a little bit before it will pick up the drawing gum, or masking fluid as some people call it. And this is definitely not perfect. However, once you get a glob like that, you can kind of spread it around a little bit. And see how it just kind of, you can just kind of go like that if you're quick enough before it dries. Ta-da! So that's kind of how that works. And I might be able to actually get some more from here. So I hadn't planned on coming back till this was done, but I thought, well, I wanted to show you guys, you know, sometimes things go wrong and you should, you know, should always have a plan B. And these will stick. It will build up after a bit. Let's see. You just kind of go like that, clean your tip off, and then you can kind of clean up the area a little bit. Sometimes you can use your finger. Always have a plan B. See, that's still a little sticky, so I can still use it. See? So always have a plan B. So now that I'm actually genuinely done with this, and this is kind of what it looks like when it's kind of dried. A little bit gross. Yeah. This is why I like the other stuff. The other stuff is, this stuff is not, it's not bad, but it's honestly, I prefer the Winsor & Newton. So I'm gonna, okay, so that's done. Also, another thing for the craft knife is good for is cleaning off your skewer. I tried doing it with my hands. As you could see, it was a mess all over my hands. Just take your craft knife and zoop, and not only does it sharpen it, but it cleans it off. Quicker and less messy. So. This is almost dry. I applied it a little bit thick, so this should be dry. Now that tip, that's the other thing I wanted to show you. I have a few Neo ones. I gotta get it because I forgot to get it out. I have a few Neo ones. And basically Neo ones are, as I said before, are the oil version of these, or I should say these. Okay, this is the Neo 1, the oil pastel. This is from the metallic set, and these are the Neo 2s, which are the water soluble. So one way this is going to tie into the clouds, you'll see, is to take your Neo 1 and just stick it on there nice and thick, like that. And I don't have to worry. The water-soluble crayons, the watercolor, distress ink will just slide right over it. That's part of what we're doing here. So now, let me make sure these are. You have to make sure this stuff is dry. It's really, it might be a little tacky, but you got to make sure that it's dry. It's really like super important. It does take a few minutes to dry, but you still have to work quickly when you're putting it on, because then, as you saw, it could snap up and pull the whole thing off. So I think this one's good enough. Okay, so because I don't want this to stick to that. So I got to decide how I'm going to lay my clouds out. Now you can use a stencil like this as a guide, or you can, you know, do it literally, or you can just, you know, freehand yours. It's either or. It's kind of, you know, what you feel like doing. So for me, I'm going to probably, I think. Sharpen my white crayon a little bit more. There we go. And I'm going to use my stencil. I may end up doing a little freehand, but I think I'm going to start with this one. And the trick to making it look nice is, you see how I've got it laid out kind of over the, kind of over this part a little bit, but not, I'm not going to cover it up. You'll see. Let me make sure I'm on screen good. Okay, cool. So now you can tack this down if you want. I probably should. At least just a little bit. So that way if I lose my grip on it, it doesn't go anywhere. Just a little bit. There. Now this is kind of why you want it a little sharp. Because when you're doing little areas like this, that are a little small, you kind of want, and I'm probably going to actually do something different with that spot since it is so dang small. And I'm not going to worry about these little lines right here. This stencil is multi-purpose, so I could add these in for, like, an extra layer or whatever. I'm not going to worry about that. I just want the basic outline. But the smaller areas, I'll show you another way to do it. And if what just happened there, just gently pick it up and kind of there. They will crumble a little bit. I mean, Pentels are cheap, but they are, I mean, $10 for that whole huge set. And I mean, they're small, but I kind of like that, actually, So you just kind of want to, I do the outline first. That way I can just kind of, in case I lose my grip on it, I have kind of an outline of where to go. And I'm putting this on a little bit thick. The thicker you lay down your oil pastel crayon, the thicker, the more that the water media is going to slide over it. So if you want it to sort of go over it, but not completely, like 100% skip over it, then you just add a lighter layer of it. I'm going heavy with this because I want it to be, I don't want it to adhere to it at all. Now, the other thing you can do with the smaller, I'll show you when I'm done with the clouds. I'll show you see what I mean. I'm going to get as much of it as I can. Yeah, okay. But there is a nice way to blend these out. Whoops, see? That's why I'm glad I taped that down. But I'm basically done anyway. Now, once you go, get your clean makeup brush and just don't rub with your finger. It's like with wax prismas. It just makes a mess. So you just want to kind of gently do that. Okay, so check the other side, make sure it's not too dirty. Now, I'm going to pull this up. Oops, drop my crayon. Okay, so let's see which other one I want to use. You can blow too. Anyway, I think I'm going to have this down here. So I'm going to adhere that to there. And I think I'm going to add an extra. This video might run a little long, but I hope you guys will find it really useful. It's definitely not my Flash Friday, but I wanting to do this for a while because it's so much fun. Now, the other way, I'm going to use this stencil to show you another way to put your oil pastels on. basically you take your I'm just deciding on a brush here. Okay, let's see. And it does eventually smell after a bit. If you like, I spilled a half a bottle all over my desk, and it does smell. So it eventually will smell a little, but it's a lot more than some. But it does have some odor to it. Not too bad. But you take your shavings for your Pental here, and I'm going to put these in the middle. So, but you take your gamsol, and I'm bringing some of the gamsol into here. Actually, I should have just brought it all into here. Hold on a minute. I'll change the plans. And you see how it's dissolving? It's just dissolving that oil pastel. Yeah, so you can do this, but don't press very hard, okay? You want to, in fact, using the side of your brush, your crayon, for larger areas like this is actually really helpful because you don't push as hard. And then you can just do soft little circles. Pretend like it's a prisma. Just soft little circles. And you don't want to go over too hard with this because you want that shape for now. So you don't want to rub off the shape. So you can do it like that. And pardon me while I gotta tilt this, guys. Sorry. I know. I'm sorry that I have to. I'm just trying to make sure I don't. And if you bump up against the masking fluid, that's fine. Just don't rub too hard up against it. Just when you feel it, just kind of go around a little bit. That way you don't rub it off. Now let's see, where's my... I think as I get closer to this, I'm going to I should have enough, really. This stuff spreads around pretty good. And I've also got my shavings to work from, so this actually should be enough. Bear with me, guys. I have to... All right. Now make sure you have the right shaving, which is this one. So I don't know if you could see. Hold on, sorry. This is the crayon I was just using. Okay. And I believe, don't quote me, there is on these a email, info@lyra.de. And they have a web address, www.lyra.de. Just fun little fact. It does not... Are you kidding me? It does not say. Oh, that's lovely. I'm so sorry, people. I would venture to say this is like a sky blue. If I had to get... So, wow. Okay. I thought about using these, and I may as yet for some of the finer detail areas, but one thing you do have to be careful, I've noticed with these water type brushes when you're using these crayons, is that the crayon can build up and get pushed up inside the this part of it right here. And it can cause, when you go to squeeze the water out, it can cause, especially if you've switched to another color, it can cause that back color you previously used to squish, then come out with, and you have an accident. So I would be careful when you're using these on these with these water-soluble crayons, just for that reason. I found that out the hard way yesterday, and I was like, okay. So, I would say maybe using these might be a little bit better. So I have my handy-dandy little water thing over here. And I'm not going to do the whole thing because I would take... I might... I'll tell you what. I'll speed color brush the rest of it. And I'll just do a little bit of it to show you the different techniques. And then I'll like sort of speed film the rest of it. So I'm going to take some water with my brush. And I'm going to put some water into here. Now, there's one of two ways you can do this. You can use your brush... or you can use, if I can find it, I got these on Amazon, and honest to goodness, they are the coolest thing. These little droppers are the most amazing thing. Some are bent, some are not, you know, but you just stick it in your water thing, and you just, ta-da! Or you can just use your brush, which is this way. You load it up with the water, and you quickly drag it over to your thing, and just kind of go like that. That can take forever. I'm just telling you straight up, it can take forever. So your best bet is to get some of these little droppers. I got them on Amazon for next to nothing. And trust me, it will do it in about half the time. So I will also look those up and put those in the description also, because they're absolutely worth getting. And you want to just kind of let them sit in there and kind of stir them around. The brush a little bit, that's okay. You just kind of scrape it off. But the Gamsol does to the oil pastel pencil what water does to this water crayon. So I'm going to get this off of there. And you can also put it onto your palette directly from the crayon, or I can take these lumps and just put them onto this palette like so. This is handy. I don't know if you can see it, but here, let's pull this down a little bit. That is going to also come in handy. That's dissolving. This is already dissolved, and so I'm going to pull these off of here for the minute. And I'm actually going to break out my wide brush. So, these kind of things, I'll have to show you over this. You just basically kind of squeeze a little. That was interesting. So, I'm going to keep these on standby, these two things, and I'm going to just basically try not to get in y'all's way. There we go. But yeah, just kind of squeeze, and the water will basically, you want to saturate the brush by just squeezing until some drops come out, not over your picture, because otherwise you'll just have too much water. And if you find that you do, just kind of have your little rag handy and just kind of dip it on the rag, and that will sort of get rid of some of the excess paint or excess water. This is coming out really hard. This is where the magic happens. I hope you can see this. You see how the masking fluid is just, it's not adhering to it at all. And look where the oil pastel crayon is. And the real magic when you'll see when it dries. Now see, I went in with the pigment that was on the palette, right? That I had dissolved directly on the palette, and you see how much more heavy it is, much more vibrant. So depending on what look you want, if you decide that it's not that it's too transparent, you can go back in and just dip it in that extra paste that you have of the crayon, and you have to be careful too, because you can see what I did, and that's not too big a deal, but you do have to be careful. I went over the sides, and you see what happened. So that's just a note to, you know, be careful. And I'm gonna try to wipe that off. Shoot. You do have to be careful when you're going over the sides like that. It's better to go this way than the other way. That was dumb. So that was kind of dumb. But you see how magic her paper is? It's like, oh. Now, you take your brush and you clean it off. And you just wipe off the water crayon off of the oil pastel, and look at that. You have a nice pretty cloud definition, and you can soften that if you want, just like that. Or you can get your Gamsol and your Q-tip and kind of go in with it and blend them together. I highly recommend. Ooh, did bleed through a little. I highly recommend going over it with like a soft pencil like Prismas. It does give it a nice finished look, especially when things get kind of wrinkly. Oops, go this way. Look at that. Now that is a problem. I'm not sure what happened up there. I don't know why, if I got some resist crayon up there, or not resist crayon, if I happen to get a little of the oil pastel up there maybe. Oh, but see, that's the thing. This thing is it's all subjective, so you can just kind of go over it with a little Gamsol or a little pencil and just turn it into a cloud. Like, that's probably what I'll do, since that I must have gotten some oil pastel up there. So, no big deal. You know, that's one of the wonderful things about doing this kind of background is, you know, if it doesn't quite go like you initially thought and you have little accidents like that, just take it, once that dries, I'll take a oil pastel, oil pastel white crayon, or a little Gamsol and oil pastel like paste, and I'll go over that and just make it more of a cloud. But wait till it dries. Okay, you don't want to do it while it's wet. So, but that's fine. Because, yeah, otherwise, see, it bled through a little bit. And it takes a lot for this paper to bleed through. And there's a tiny little spot right there, which is no big deal. Just get a little paper towel and just gently, and I mean gently, because you don't want to push it all the way through. Just kind of pull it up like that. And see, it shouldn't be too bad. And that'll dry, and you might even be able to erase it off once it's dry. Accidents happen. You know, it happens. So, for the rest of this, I think I'm going to use up some of this. I'm going to use my palette here, and I'm just going to I'm going to go this way because I You have to be careful. Make sure you guys can still see. There we go. You see how that masking fluid is just keeping it right off of it? And you want to sort of blend that in, especially when you use it, the thicker consistency of it, you want to just kind of blend that in a little bit. And if it gets a little too thick, just add a little water, which this stuff does thicken up. So just get a little water, just thin it up. No biggie. Dab it on your paper towel first. This is why you should have the tape. Because you see how I'm going to the edge? Sometimes it can still bleed through, but not too much. This really helps a lot with that. And I can see where I got a little bit of the cloud on the other side, but that's okay. It's nice and abstract. So, and I'm going to have to turn that into a cloud. Before it dries, however, you want to go in with either a Q-tip or a clean brush and gently get that crayon off. And it depends on like how harsh a line you want. If you want a nice defined line, then you should do that. If you want a softer line, you see how I brushed over it? I will probably leave some of that. Not all of it, but some of it, because it just kind of looks pretty. And it gives it a little softer look, you know? Whoops, sorry. That's kind of how I got that soft look. Is once I was done layering everything in, I just took my Gamsol, my paintbrush, my Q-tips, and just kind of blended and or defined as till I was happy with it. And since we don't have all day for me to do that, you know, I think you guys get the idea. And don't worry if accidents like this happen. This stuff, unless it's Inktense, which is permanent when dry, it's not usually that big a deal. But I'm not going to define this too harshly because I like how soft it is. You see that? It's nice and soft. Ooh, you did not just hear that. That was my stomach. I'm going to pull this over just a little bit. You do have to be careful because eventually this stuff will bleed through, as you saw, but it takes a lot. It really does take a lot. So I think you guys get the idea, don't you? And when you're done, like when this is dry, I'll come back in and I'll show you how to get this off and this off safely. Okay, so now that I finished filling in the background, for the most part, I haven't gone over it with pencils, but what you can do if you want to soften some of this up is grab some, like I have gouache, I think it's acrylic paint, some white acrylic paint, and just kind of squiggle it on a little bit. And that way you can sort of blend that. What it'll do is it will blend it with that water-soluble crayon in a really, really pretty way. So you just kind of see how that softens that. So if you don't want a nice harsh look, you can just kind of go like that, and it just really adds a really, because the oil pastel's not going anywhere unless you put some Gamsol on it. You see how that kind of softens it in a really, really pretty way? Gives it a nice fluffy appearance. And you want to rinse your brush often, especially when you're kind of changing the color a little bit. Because I'm sort of playing around with the shapes a little bit now, just to kind of show you. And you see how it's pulling where the oil pastel is, and you can just simply wipe it off and kind of blend it out into the water-soluble crayon area. It's definitely important to have some clean water and a dirty water. I have a thing that has a divider. I'll show you. Something like this is really handy. So I'm just kind of basically playing around with it a little bit. You just kind of do little circles like that, and it kind of just blends it out a little bit. See how fluffy that's getting? So I'm kind of basically, oh my gosh, I cannot speak. I'm softening all of this a little bit. I'm starting out with the white onto the cloud and pushing it out into the water-soluble crayon area, because the oil pastel, unless I put some Gamsol in it, it's not going anywhere, which is the point of it. So I'm gonna rinse this off and just wipe it and push it into, and there you go, see? Now if you want it to stay, you can just grab a bit of your paint here and just kind of, ta-da! It's a nice way to sort of blend a bunch of different mediums. And this paper, I swear, can take so much. It can take so much wet media. It's absolutely amazing. If you have not tried Hanna's books, you should. I can go crazy buck wild in her books, and there might be some small issues, but man, her books can take a lot. And just wipe it off if you don't have any water, but I highly recommend it. Let's see, rinse my brush off. See, this came out a little harsher than I wanted it to, so I'm going to basically use that technique of starting in the white and pushing out into the water-soluble crayon area, and then rinsing my brush, and then pushing again. You see how I did that? So you get your paint, not too much, though. That was a little too much. Here, and you start in your oil pastel area, push it out into that area, rinse your brush out, and then do it again. This area might not be quite as dry as I thought it was, but that's okay. And I think the paper is kind of nearing its max. Eventually, it's gonna be too much, and it's gonna, you know, eventually it's gonna, you know, bleed or whatever. But it can take so much. It's absolutely amazing. I'm definitely changing the shape a little bit. You see how I'm softening that? Now, the reverse were true, and I wanted to take my clean brush and just push it back a little. Is there sparkles in this? Oh no. Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh dear. So, there is sparkle in this white paint. Oh, son of a gun. Okay. Well, I have just introduced some sparkles. Dang it. Okay, well, I might as well just, you know what? I did not see that right off. I blame my poor vision for not seeing that. That's okay. I'll work around it. And you can paint over the oil pastel. Like I'm doing right now. You can absolutely do that, and it will stick. As long as you know, wait till it's dry. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that since I've already sort of introduced it by oopsie. And I still have my masking fluid down, and I added some to this whole area right here. So I'm just gonna kind of, I might as well, you know. I wanted some sparkle in anyway, so it's kind of all good. I'm just like, I'm just gonna make it work. It's okay. The technique still holds though. You know, you just take your clean brush, you push the paint out into the water-soluble crayon area. Rinse your brush. And then push it back out again. Assuming you want your clouds nice and white and fluffy. You know, they don't have to be perfectly white because they usually aren't. Now, if you wanted to reverse it, just clean off your brush and check the dirtiness of your water too. And just kind of make sure your brush is rinsed out. I might grab a little more paint of the water-soluble crayon here. Yeah, the paper's definitely nearing its max. I can just kind of tell. You learn to tell when the paper's had enough. Yeah, that's not too bad. And sometimes pushing it out and then pushing it back in just kind of allows you to give that softer effect. But you see how much softer it is? It's not as harsh. Like right there is way too harsh. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my now sparkly paint. My now sparkly clouds. And I'm gonna kind of just make it look nice and soft. Blur those lines a little bit so that it looks a little more natural. See what I mean? It's not too hard. And rinse your brush out. Make sure you rinse it out good because I can tell where I didn't. Just push that back out a little bit. Ta-da! And there it is. So, yeah, I think I need to put an S for sparkle on that, right? Yeah, definitely. Wow. Oh, that's okay. Now I'm going to let this dry and I'll be back. Okay, so I did add another color, and I forgot to mention this. To this one area, they don't unfortunately say their colors on the labels. Oh wait, maybe it does. Oh, it does right here, night green. So the other ones I couldn't tell because the where it says the color name had been, I had to take it off to sharpen the crayons. So this is not. I did add some night green, which is a very beautiful greenish blue. It's really nice for adding undertones. I will be going over this with like a soft wax pencil, like a Holbein or a Prisma, but I wanted to show you what I was meaning about this paper and the tape and the masking fluid. Now you can see on the other side there's very little damage. There's little up here. I mean, it's wrinkly, but what you can do is get a craft iron, put some parchment paper over this, and then gently, like on a medium heat, just iron it, and it'll straighten out by and large. Not entirely, but close enough that you should be able to use the other side, assuming you haven't, it hasn't broke through too bad. But you see what I mean? How much that paper can take? It's kind of incredible. Now I'm about to make some noise, so I have this on low, but basically you take I'm going to do this so you guys can see, fingers, and you just let it kind of get to you don't want to do it on high heat because then she has her paper sewn in, but it's also glued too, and you want to be careful you don't take up that glue. Loosen up the glue. I've done several books that way. My Hanna's Kirby books, I've loosened the actual glue binding by doing this. So you have to be careful, but you just kind of go like that, and you just basically let it sort of melt the glue for you a little bit. And you just kind of do a test pull. And if you feel any serious resistance, you just kind of flow it. And then you just kind of do a little more. You don't rush it. I've done that and paid for it. And this also, ta-da, there it is. This also keeps it from getting onto the other side. Look at that. How about that? I mean, nothing. Ta-da! And I went right to the binding. And it also helps prevent leaks. There's one little one there, maybe. So, there you go. Now, the other thing is the masking fluid. The best way to get that up is to make sure your background is really dry. And I did blow that dry a little bit. So, I still cannot believe I used the sparkly white. Yeah, it was just whatever, right? I wanted to sort of add some sparkle anyway, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna roll with it. Just take your finger and just go like this. And this is one of those things you don't rush it either, because, and I'm not worried that I missed a little spot right there where it didn't kind of follow the drawing too well, because I'm going to go over this with like some pencils just to smooth everything out. I don't want to entirely hide this beautiful shading, but I do want to kind of smooth it all out so that it's a little more, softer. Like, I don't want to mess with the clouds, but like right in here you can kind of see where the paint's a little uneven, and a soft pencil like a Holbein or a Prisma will do that. I do not recommend polys for an application like this. It's not, to me, advisable. But just rub your finger gently like that, and it will come right up. You never, ever want to just, because you can tear the paper that way. So, and you'll see that even on the areas where it's a little more complicated, Just gently make, and this is why it's important to make sure, because you can see where my finger's turning blue a little. It might not be 100% dry, but it's close enough for this, for my purposes here, because I'm going to go back over it anyway, like I said. So if it comes off a little bit, that's fine. You just don't want it like totally wet. And you can pull on it a little. You just want to make sure that you don't pull real hard. You really just want to rub. Ta-da! And that's kind of how it goes. You do want to be careful, however, because this still does have paint on it, so I really shouldn't want to put that there. But watch when I take it off of some, like down here, you just gently rub, and that's all you got to do. Oh, don't rub the clouds. And I got a little bit here. I'm not too worried about that. That should come off. I got to tell you, doing these, this part was a little hard because my tool, my hubby was not able to fix it. The little tool that I showed you earlier that I was applying it with first, the one that has a end like this, the masking pullet popped it out and he wasn't able to get it back in. I'm just like, so I had to make do with my little skewer stick, which it works. I mean, you know, this is why I can't stress that, you know, enough that having a backup plan is always advisable. So when something goes wrong, and invariably it does, you have a quick way to fix it before it becomes major damage. Or you have to start over or something like that. You see how easily that's coming off? And I'm not worried about the... Yeah, see, it's coming off a little, but that's okay. That's no biggie. I'm not too worried about some of it coming up. It's fine. If it was a straight up watercolor, it would not be doing that. But it is water-soluble crayon, which kind of, when you get it like this, will act like a acrylic paint in a matter of speaking. If you apply it like this, and this is like multiple layers, it acts, at first it will look like a watercolor, but the more you apply it, you know, and I applied it kind of with less water and more the watercolor or water-soluble crayon, it becomes a little more like acrylic paint. Let's see, I think that's it. Ta-da! So, I will try to post in the description the various, you know, products that I used, as well as the finished background. I don't know about this part of it, but I will finish out the background with the pencils, and I will list the pencils that I use, so that if you have this book and you want to follow along, you can. But I think this personally one came out a little bit better than this one, but I still like it a lot. It's just a lot darker than I planned on it being, but it's you could see it's a similar effect. This is more of a summer kind of vibe. So but yeah, that's kind of how that's done. And I now have sparkly clouds, which I'm totally okay with, because the sparkle fixes everything. So anyway, I'm going to scoot, definitely post all that in the description, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and take care. All right, bye.